Welcome back to the podcast. We're going to be talking about so much stuff here because there is a lot going on with, everything that is happening with Iran, with Israel, all the stuff that is going down. And we are ultimately going to find ourselves in a place where, I mean, stuff is going to get absolutely insane. We're living in a world right now where there is just so much happening. And these Iranian strikes that we just learned about is absolute breaking news. And we're going to be taking a look at, all of it. We're going to be taking a look at some of these stories. So the building that you're seeing that is on fire right now, this is one of the strikes that Israel did. They conducted over 200 strikes as of right now. And ultimately, we're seeing some of the aftermath of what is happening in all of this. So if you are just joining the podcast, thanks so much for being here. This is the Equally Yoked Show. I'm your host, Charles. We're going to be covering a couple of news items today, mostly looking at some stuff with regards to what is happening with Iran. And this is absolutely unprecedented because we know that the Bible talks about the last days being in the manner that we're seeing currently. And we're seeing a ramp up of war. We're seeing a ramp up of rumors of wars. And we're seeing so much happening on this front of the Middle Eastern war. And so everything that is going on, of course, this is some of the aftermath footage that you're seeing here. I'm going to replay this for you so you can just see. This is from the Israeli strikes. They struck in over 200 times with their fighter jets. And we're going to be looking at some of the news with regards to this and some of the what people are saying. And we're just going to provide you that coverage today. So I think it's going to be very, very important to understand the likes of which everything that is going down that relates to Bible prophecy. And so this is all happening just at a rapid pace. It really is. And if you guys don't know the sort of things that are going down right now with Israel and Iran, there is so much to cover here. There is so much to cover here. So Israel struck Iran's nuclear facilities, their key nuclear facilities, in order to deter them from becoming a nuclear power. And there's intel that is going down. We're going to look at some leaked intel with regards to what Iran, the sort of capabilities that they currently hold in this moment. And otherwise, there is just a lot of news that is happening as of right now. So if you guys have heard of anything going down, can you guys please let me know in the chat? Let me know what you guys are hearing from your end. If you guys have seen any of this news, covered any of this news, watched anything with regards to this, because this is absolutely unprecedented. And I'm coming to you live a little bit later than usual, but otherwise, this is some of the footage that we're seeing from the aftermath of the Israeli strikes. So again, if you're just joining the podcast, welcome. We're going to be covering some of this news here on the Israeli strikes of Iran. And this is from Forbes News. This is what they're broadcasting here, a destroyed building. And again, Israel has struck over 200 sites. And Isle Hikes, you say hi, hello, welcome to the podcast. This is the Equally Yoked Show. We're going to be covering a lot of this news here. So let's take a look at the first video. Amin, thank you for being here. Let's take a look at the first video with regards to some declassified information of Iran's nuclear plans. I don't think there's any audio here, but you say, I am from Iran, Amin. What are things looking like for you there? Because we know that the Iranian people are wonderful people, but the regime is absolutely tyrannical. Is that your perspective from your side? Is that what you get from you being in Iran? Are you truly from Iran? Are you experiencing this right now? Are you far from this where this took place? So you're not really affected by it just yet. Of course, your country is going to be affected by it if that's actually the case. But otherwise, what's the ground, the sentiment in the ground right now? What are the people saying? What is going down at this moment? So let's take a look at some of this declassified information. This is Iran's nuclear plans. And it says the IAEA reports indicate the Iranian regime is advancing toward a nuclear weapon. And we know that Iran getting a nuclear weapon isn't going to be good for the Middle East, because they will use by any means necessary to destroy the Israeli country, the Jewish people. And so it says, furthermore, as of October 2023, Iranian regime has 4130.7 kilograms of 4,130.7 kilograms of enriched uranium. So what does this mean? It says, sheesh, my dude, what's going on? Yeah, so this is absolute insane news. Some dude. There is Iran was struck by Israel with over 200 fighter jets that struck key areas to destroy or deter the Iranian regime from obtaining and completing a nuclear warhead. There was some speculation that they were able to, or they're in the works of creating a 12-ton or 2-ton nuclear or missile warhead. It sounds kind of unfathomable. Oh boy. It sounds crazy, okay, to say the least, because how could they possibly launch a rocket at that weight? That's a lot, especially a hypersonic speed. You say Iran War 2.0 seems like a bad idea, though. We don't want to go to war with Iran, but ultimately Israel did this without the permission of the U.S. because, I mean, honestly, I want to say that I trust their intel a lot more than what the U.S. is getting. And it may not even be the whole picture as to what the U.S. is getting as far as intel goes. But if you guys are all just joining the chat right now and joining the podcast, I know we're at the late hour. This is the Equally Yoked Show. Thanks so much for being here. And we're going to be talking about the strikes that are happening or the strikes that just happened in Iran from Israel. And so it looks like they have about 4,130.7 kilograms of enriched uranium in order to complete missile warheads. And this is as of October 2023, this report. And so otherwise, this is bad news. This is bad news. So it says, what bad takes are we handing out today? Oh boy. So it says the Mossad does have better intel, but don't you think Turkey or Iraq would respond to this? I don't know. Turkey, Erdogan, he's got a big mouth, but he doesn't really act on things. He's been threatening Israel for the longest now, especially because of the whole thing with Gaza, as of really since they started striking back at Hamas. And he was all talk, saying that he was going to go in and he was going to send troops over there and invade Israel, but he hasn't done so. So he's a lot of talk right now, and he's one to want to bring back the Roman Empire. For whatever reason, he wants to revive the Roman Empire, and ultimately, he has some big ambitions. Yet he's not really walking the talk, and so Turkey unlikely will do anything, and Iraq, at some point, these nations will come together. However, Turkey, Iraq, and Iran, along with Russia, will get together because of the scripture of what we read about in Ezekiel 38 with regards to the war that will happen in the invasion of Israel. And if you don't know about that passage, we'll talk about that in just a moment. But otherwise, I'll just cue that up so that way you guys can, so that it can be ready for you guys to see. And we can really just walk through the scripture and what it says. This is not something that is unknown to us. We have the knowledge to know what is going to happen in the future. And ultimately, we have to be wise about looking at the things that we see in our world today. You say, isn't Israel already at war with Lebanon? They are at war, most certainly. They are at war with, most certainly, it's Hezbollah, not necessarily Lebanon, because the Lebanese army or the Lebanese government doesn't want to go at war with Israel, but the Hezbollah uh, militia wants to continue to attack them because that is a proxy of Iran. So it says, I don't want anyone to have nuclear arms, but after how crazy Trump and Israel have been, I don't blame Iran. Well, the thing is, if Iran obtains a nuclear weapon, they're going to want to wipe off America from the map and Israel from the map. Actually, in their charter, in the Islamic charter, in Iran's charter, what their goals are to destroy the big Satan and destroy the little Satan. The big Satan being the USA and the little Satan being Israel. But they don't like either of us. They have their chance with regards to destroying America and destroying the Jews. It's death to America. It's death to the Jews. So they haven't been crazy at all. Iran is completely radical in what they do. Iran actually funds the ring of fire that is surrounding Israel. So I don't know how you could say such a statement. You might be a little delirious at this 12 o'clock hour. So I think you should rethink that statement, because they are absolute radicals when it comes to the region there. So it says, within a split second, the Iranian regime can decide to obtain a nuclear weapon, and they would have enough enriched uranium for 9 nuclear bombs. Okay, so continuing on here, it says, as of February 2024, the Iranian regime has 5,164.5 kilograms of enriched uranium. And as of May, that bumped up to 5,800. October, 5,800. Did that go down? In February 2025, 7,264. It says within a split second. Again, the Iranian regime can decide to obtain a nuclear weapon, and they would have enough enriched uranium for 15 nuclear bombs. And so Israel has no other choice. And this was posted 3 hours ago. So the description goes on to say, recent intelligence shows that Iran is nearing the point of no return in its race toward nuclear war, nuclear weapons. And the regime is producing thousands of kilograms of enriched uranium alongside decentralized and fortified enrichment compounds in underground fortified sites. This program was accelerated significantly in recent months, bringing the regime significantly closer to obtaining a nuclear weapon. The Iranian regime has been working for decades to obtain a nuclear weapon, and the world has attempted every possible diplomatic path to stop it, including the fact that not just Trump, but other previous presidents have deterred Iran from being I say they have, but the whole I forget the treaty that they did with Iran with regards to nuclear weapons was to deter them, and they would be able to enrich uranium under specific guidelines, as they were saying it was for something else, but really we really know what they're trying to enrich uranium for. It's for nuclear weapons. But it says the world has attempted to every possible diplomatic path to stop it, but the regime has refused to stop. Okay, so continuing on here, it says the state of Israel has been left with no choice. The IDF has the obligation to act in defense of the civilians of Israel and will continue to do so. They have no choice, because if they don't do anything, then they're in jeopardy of having their whole country destroyed. He said, I guess Trump should have kept the treaty then. The treaty was a bad deal. I forget the name of the deal. If anybody knows, let me know in the chat. It's the deal that Biden and his administration renewed. I forget what the name of it is. What's the deal with Syria? Didn't their government collapse like in Libya? Yeah, their government was taken over by this new Assad regime, and ultimately, I don't know what's going to happen, but ultimately we have things are brewing up in the Middle East. I'll just say that much. say that is very true about the threats coming out of Iran for years. Yes. Worked with guys who fled Iran, most American guys I ever met. Yeah. This is the IDF YouTube channel, by the way, the Israel Defense Force. How bad? Be specific. It kept Iran from building nuclear weapons. How bad? Meaning, how bad is it going to get? Meaning, we're looking at potentially nuclear war here. And also Iran being able to sort of hold this over anybody's head who tries to attack any of the proxies that Iran decides to send over to Israel or wherever. So if Israel continues to defend itself against the attacks from the proxies that Iran continues to use, because mind you, Iran is at a specific distance to where it doesn't make it impossible, because we saw that Iran struck Israel with rockets. This was a first in history where the one sovereign nation actually struck another sovereign nation with missiles in this manner. And so ultimately, it's not impossible, yet the ballistic missiles that they're using are very highly sophisticated and capable of going long range distances. And in fact, they had to implement new systems like the Arrow system in order to catch these missiles, because they go essentially up into the atmosphere. And then when they come down at a straight, strong trajectory, and it makes it hard for the Iron Dome to catch these and intercept them. So what has been utilized is the Arrow defense system, and this is some of the technology that Trump wants to implement in over the United States, which is called the Golden Dome. And so let's see, Sharon, welcome to the podcast. You say a considerable consternation that I observed the dichotomy between his avowed advocacy for the cessation of armed conflicts and his concurrent inclination towards instigating belligerence with Mexico. Iran sees Israel leveling Gaza. I don't blame them for wanting to arm up, but Gaza doesn't belong to Iran. It's under the Palestinian, well, not actually under the Palestinian Authority is West Bank, but under the what would be in control, who would be in control of Gaza is Hamas, and Hamas is an operative of Iran. They're a proxy, but ultimately Israel that is a part of Israel. Say always money for weapons of war. Meanwhile, citizens and vets die on the streets in the world's richest country. Israel warplanes F-16 lack ability to launch from Israel and return due to lack of fuel. Yeah, I think they're using F-35s. I'm not sure exactly the planes that they're using. I really haven't seen or looked into that. I think the post that I read about these strikes, Netanyahu has funded Hamas. I've heard somebody make that argument before. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. I actually heard the argument was they funded ISIS, not Hamas. Hamas stems off of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is not ISIS. So this is the preemptive strikes that the IDF confirms here. So this is what is said on this post. Let's check this out.
For years, the Iranian regime has called for the destruction of the State of Israel, planning and advancing concrete military plans to do so. Over the past few months, intelligence has shown that Iran is closer than ever to obtaining a nuclear weapon. This morning, the IDF began preemptive and precise strikes targeting the Iranian nuclear program in order to prevent the Iranian regime's ability to build a nuclear bomb in the immediate time frame. We have no choice. We are operating against an imminent and existential threat. We cannot allow the Iranian regime to obtain a nuclear weapon that would be a danger to Israel and the entire world. This operation is for our right to exist here, for our future and for our children's future. The State of Israel has the right and the obligation to operate in order to protect its people and will continue to do so. The IDF conducted significant preparations for this operation. We are well prepared both in defense and offense to defend ourselves. The IDF will continue to defend the State of Israel.
Yeah, the IDF is on standby in order to deter any attacks potentially from Iran. There is, again, just so much happening here. Let's see. I'm going to bring you over to, let's see here. Maybe this is relevant to what we're looking at here because this is 3 hours ago. Yeah, let's take a look. Let's take a look at this because the David Tal over at the Balagan Connection, he served in the IDF, and he talks about quite some of the information that we hear about that you're not going to hear about anywhere else, because right now we're getting a lot of news sources and we're getting a lot of information, and he probably has some inside information into some of the truthful news as to what's coming out of the sort of news stories. Israel has made arrangements to refuel in Saudi. Yeah, very possible, because they're having they're continuing to create relations in that manner. And actually, in the fact of the Bible, it talks about the fact that Saudi Arabia, which is the merchants of Tarshish, will be advocating for Israel against the attacks that are happening in that war. So let's bring you over here.
Israel has set out to take out Iran's nuclear facilities. It is basically a declaration of war on the Islamic Republic of Iran. And we'll go into the details of what we know and what we don't know. We'll go into the details about how Israel is getting ready for this. But the first thing I want you to do is please, please put your hands together and pray for Israel in this very, very serious, very, very dangerous time. Lord, put your hand over your country, over your people. Put your hands over Israel and guard them from the evil that is now going to be perpetrated from the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Mind you, you're saying Netanyahu has funded Hamas. Actually, now I'm getting more clarity as to what you're saying. And I know you're going to disagree with what I'm going to say, because typically that's your response. But otherwise, you say reports suggest that under Netanyahu's leadership, Israel allowed or even encouraged the transfer of millions of dollars from Qatar to Hamas in Gaza since 2018, primarily in the form of cash delivered through the Rafah crossing. You say, no. It continues. For years, Netanyahu propped up Hamas. Now it's blown up in our faces, the times of Israel. And ultimately, we have to remember that Israel has continually provided resources to Hamas, to the Gazans. It's for the Gazan, the benefit of Gaza, by putting in filtration systems, by putting in water systems, by putting in by funding them with aid and sending aid and doing all these types of measures in order to help Gaza thrive. Because, mind you, Israel is the only nation that has ever received in any type of Palestinian group. Egypt doesn't want them. Jordan doesn't want them. Lebanon doesn't want them. And so Libya doesn't want them. Nobody in the surrounding countries want the Palestinians in their land, because this is what continues to happen. Anytime the Palestinians go into a land, what happens is they begin to cause terror. They begin to cause terror. It's almost like a plague. And I'm not saying all Palestinians are bad, but because of the fact that this Muslim Brotherhood that spun from Egypt really took over and advanced its way into where we know as today as Gaza, is a real bad terror organization that will continue to destroy things in its path. And so ultimately, ultimately, the fact that Israel has done everything in their power to be able to sustain the Gazan people under a tyrannical regime like Hamas, militia like Hamas, to benefit the people of Gaza. Hamas has always destroyed it. Destroyed it. You say like a plague, that's dehumanizing talk. So you're for the killing of innocent people, the killing of babies, grandmas. It's exactly what you're saying. You said Palestinians are in their land. No, that is not their land. Go read your history. Go read your history, man. Because you have to understand that the name Palestinian is not what people think it is today. Say, trust the U.S. definitely was involved with that strike. Ask the CIA that assists Israel with intelligence. It's possible. I don't know. This is all unconfirmed. The only thing we know that the media is talking about is that they didn't notify. I don't know if they didn't notify, but where did I hear this from? But it's something along the lines that there was no heads up, that they just decided that they're going to make this go ahead. And so the modern Palestinian identity emerged over centuries, by the way. And so some of the research here, it says the name Palestinian or Palestine derives from the Latin Philistina or Palestina, used by Romans around the 2nd century CE, likely rooted in earlier term Philistia, referring to the coastal region inhabited by the Philistines, a non-Semitic people mentioned in ancient sources like the Bible and Egyptian records around 1200 BCE. Not BCE, BC. We're not going to use before Common Era nonsense, so that's before Christ. The modern Palestinian identity emerged over centuries, shaped by the region's complex history. The area saw successive rulers: Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, and various Islamic empires. The Umayyads, Abbasids, Ottomans, I'm probably butchering those names. By the 7th century, Arab conquests brought Islam and Arabic language, which became dominant among the local population, a mix of indigenous people or indigenous groups, including descendants of Canaanites, Hebrews, and others, and later arrivals. Over time, this population, mostly Muslim and or with Christian and smaller Jewish communities, developed a distinct cultural and social identity tied to the land. It says by the late 19th and 18th, early 20th centuries, under Ottoman and then British rule, post-World War II mandate, the term Palestinian increasingly referred to Arab majority inhabitants, distinct from Jewish settlers arriving during the Zionist movement in 1948 Arab-Israeli War. The creation of Israel led to the displacement of many Palestinians. The Nakab, solidifying a national identity centered on a shared history, land, and struggle. Genetically, studies show Palestinians are closely related to Levantine populations, Lebanese, Syrians, Jordanians, the ancestry tracking back to ancient inhabitants of the region, including Canaanites, which are, and later mixtures of Arabian and other groups. Culturally, they're rooted to Arab traditions, unique dialects, cuisines. And so let's see. Say historically, both people have somewhat valid take, I think. Have you ever read the accounts of what it's like to live as a Palestinian under Israeli occupation? It's inhumane. That is not true. There's a video that I just can't seem to find. It's of a Palestinian man who's talking in, I think, the European Parliament, And he's talking about how the Israel has done everything in their power and really helped the Palestinians be able to thrive, being a part of either if they want to work, because some of them they come from the Gazan border, they go into Israel to work, and they provide them such a well sustainable living, especially if any of the Arabs that work in Israel live in Israel. They're some of the most blessed, some of the most successful people. I think the richest person in Israel is Arab. He's owners of one of the largest banks out there. I say, have you read what it's like to live as a Jew in Gaza? It's Holocaust level bad. Yeah, you wouldn't. It's basically like they would murder you in the street essentially. And time out because you're just making just dumb statements. MPDG, come on. Make factual arguments here. At least like the other comments in here, there's at least some kind of weight or description as to what you're saying, what they're saying.
We know what our role is here. Let me tell you what I don't know, and let's see if we can put it together. It started off with explosions in Tehran, but we all knew that this was coming. Everything from friends of mine who said that they heard the jets take off from air bases in Israel. So what we know that as of now, and I am talking at let's say 7 o'clock Pacific time. As of now, two waves have actually struck mostly Tehran, mostly the nuclear facilities. And in the meantime, the Israeli authorities have made it very clear that we're going to take out Iran's nuclear capability. And we'll talk about the instructions for the Israelis. Here's what we know about what has happened. And I'm looking out here. It looks like the chief of staff of the Iranian Republican Guard, the head of the Iranian army, the massive general, the number 2 person under Khamenei, has been taken out in an attack inside Tehran. It's called a decapitation attack. Israel is actually taking out some of the main scientists, the main officers, and it looks like, at least as of now, that Israel has succeeded in taking him out. We have hit the Republican Guard building in downtown Tehran, which is the main symbol of Iranian power in Tehran. But according to what I'm hearing now, we've hit the nuclear facilities at Arak and at Natanz. But I think, and I'm looking at the pictures that are coming out right now from all the different sources, I think mostly the strikes are inside Tehran. This is war. This is war. And we are taking the Iranian threats to retaliate, to respond to this very, very seriously. The reason that this has started, Benjamin Netanyahu got on TV a couple of minutes ago and basically said that the main reason that we're going into this is because we have actual evidence that Iran is trying to put together a nuclear bomb. And this comes together with a report from the IAEA, the International Atomic something agency, that Iran has been kind of messing around and has been trying to put a bomb together. And as a result, Iran was trying to reach the spot or the point where the negotiation with the United States is made with them having an actual usable bomb. That is unacceptable to Israel, and as a result, Israel pushed the button. I'm going to add on one more thing. President Trump has been saying we're going to try to reach an agreement, has tried to reach an agreement again and again and again, and Iran has been playing, and President Trump has said, you don't reach an agreement, we're going to let Israel go, and it looks like this has happened. The American administration has come out and said, Marco Rubio has come out and said very clearly that this is not an American operation, this is an Israeli operation, and they are telling Iran, keep America out of this, and I'm think probably the smartest thing that Tehran can do right now is keep American out of this, unless they want to completely let go of everything. Everything is all locked up. Um, Bibi said very, very clearly, this is going to be long. This is going to be dangerous. This is going to be serious, and just we need to take in consideration that this is not going to be a quick strike and it's all done. In the meantime, the Israeli authorities have gone out and told everybody in Israel no work tomorrow, no school tomorrow, stay close to the bomb shelters, put water, put provisions in the bomb shelters. My mom and sister are doing that as we speak. And the feeling in Israel that this is not going to be a one time event. There's already been two sorties, but we think that this probably might take days, maybe even weeks, in order to finish off the threat of a nuclear Iran. As of now, we have not seen any
By
reaction.
the way, this is not a. I'm not sure. Say search the Palestinian Christian explains the Israeli occupation. I won't do that on the stream because that's not the videos that I have queued up. Otherwise, I'll take a look at that on my own. They say Israel is an aircraft carrier. I'm not complaining, but the video you're playing has low volume. Thank you for that, because if I blast it, he seems to clip out. But otherwise, let's move on. I'm gonna because yeah, he's clipping on his mic here, and I don't want to blow your guys's phone speaker phones out. So otherwise, let me go here to some of this information here, because they went live. Daniel Cohen and Jack Hibbs talking about this information here with some in regards to the Ezekiel 38 war. I think we're going to hear some good stuff about this.
First of all, address the issue, Daniel, that's being discussed out there right now. You know, everybody's an expert all of a sudden on how Israel should conduct itself when they conveniently forget, Daniel, that ever since 1979, the
Thanks for that,
Islamic
YouTube punk.
regime,
You're a
after
solid
it
guy.
toppled the Shah of Iran, has made a pledge. And it doesn't matter who the president of Iran was, because the Ayatollahs are the puppet masters. And that rhetoric has been the same rhetoric since 1979. And what is it? It is the absolute annihilation and destruction of Israel. The entire world has known this. And yet, even as early as this evening, wherever you may be in the world right now, this evening in the US, there are those who are saying Israel has overreacted. Netanyahu insulted Trump by doing this. You know, all these armchair quarterbacks. The point is this: Iran has made it clear the Islamic doctrine, the teachings of the Quran, is the annihilation of Israel. And for Iran to have a nuclear weapon is absolutely unacceptable. And when Iran told the International Atomic Energy Agency that we need nuclear power to keep our lights on, which is insane. They're sitting on some of the greatest oil reserves in the world, but yet the world turned a blind eye, Daniel. And what do we have all along the way? Israel has been warning us they're going to go nuclear. They're going to put a rocket on the end of that nuclear technology, and they're going to send it in our direction. And the United States of America has finally woken up under Trump's administration to the fact that Iran could now strike the United States or certainly Europe. And now here we are at this moment where people are criticizing Israel for doing what they did. I'm just going to keep saying tonight where I'm at. People can figure out where they are in the world. That tonight Israel did what it did, and people are saying that's an irresponsible act. It's preemptive. What is the value of a threat when somebody can't do anything about it? This is the point. The value of the threat made by an Islamic regime. You better listen to what they're saying,
Yep.
because their goal has already been declared.
Mm-hmm.
So Daniel, I believe that this is going to be a dividing rod among nations, and that's not an original idea. This is something that the scripture says, that in the last days the world's going to turn against Israel. As sad as that is, we're starting to see that happen. Now, look, this is the Real Life Network. We're based on the scriptures. And so we bring news to you based from a biblical worldview position. And the issue is this: if Israel, the state, which is the country which is the size of New Jersey, um, does not take a preemptive strike against a giant like Iran, Persia in the Bible. There's no room for wiggle, Daniel. There's no room to play politics when you've got an enemy who has declared, "I'm going to wipe you off the face of the earth." This had to happen, and I it gives me just chills to think if Kamala Harris would have been president tonight in light of what's going down right now,
Thank
is a
God.
chilling thought. Thank God President Trump uh, is engaged on this by way of observation. He's not for getting involved in wars, but he knows that Israel can take care of itself. And Israel is displaying that tonight. So we could talk a little bit in a moment what the possible fallout from all this could be in light of Scripture. But Daniel, I'm not a prophet, but I will predict that this will only uh, galvanize the positions that people hold right now. Those who are anti Semitic are going to double down. Those who love and know their Bible will know and love Israel and pray and stand with Israel. So here we go.
Sorry, Pastor, there were some issues on my end with internet, I believe. Are you seeing me? Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, I see you, but I think Daniel, the less you move, the less buffering that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, Pastor, I was the internet's spotty. I don't know if there's something larger than
Well, you are.
happening. I heard you mentioning how the world has been turned against Israel, and how, boy, October 7th and the Hamas massacre played such a huge look. It moved the world. It was like it wasn't just an anti-Semitic event. It unleashed this Jew hatred from around the world.
Yeah.
It happened in Israel. It was live streamed.
I mean, when you look at it, we see what happened on October the 7th. It really turned the tide for a lot of people against Israel. It really did. That's a very profound statement there, because we really saw the dividing line of people who were going to either say, we're not going to support Israel. We're going to completely just get rid of them, as to what I was saying in the last live stream, 2 live streams ago, about Psalm 83, which is a very prophetic statement in that regard. And when we look at this scripture here, this is the hi Kimberly, welcome. You say the word of the word of the Lord came to me, son of man, set your face toward Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, thus says the Lord God, behold, I am against you, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. This is the region of Russia here. It says, I will turn you about and put hooks into your jaws, and I will bring you out, and all your army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed in full armor, a great host, all of them which with buckler and shield. Now it goes on to talk about that it's going to bring in these other nations like Persia, what is Persia? Does anybody know what Persia is? Anybody? God bless Israel. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Anybody? Anybody know what Persia is? Ancient Persia is Iran. They were actually known as the Persians until the new regime came into power, and they changed their name to the Islamic regime, or the Islamic what do they call themselves? Islamic regime. Yeah, Iran. See, there you go. Iran. See, you do know your history. All right, said Persia was Iran, I think. Yes, Persia, Iran, exactly. Cush and Put are all with them. So this would be, I believe Cush is Iraq, if I'm not mistaken, and Put, and all of them. And let's see if it gives us any information here. Southern Nile Valley, or Upper Egypt, extending from, let me see, to the Southland. I have to look that up a little bit more. It says Persia conquered. No, this is the word prior. Okay. All right. Let's go back. this is quite annoying. So anyway, we talk about they're all gathering with their hordes, their horses, their weapons, their helmets, and they're in full armor. This is a prophecy here. This is a prophecy. So it says, "Be ready, you and all your hosts that are assembled about you, and be a guard for them. After many days, there will be days you will be mustered. In the latter years, you will go against the land that is restored from war." Very important. A land that is restored from war. Israel has been a land that is restored from war. The land whose people were gathered from many peoples upon the mountains of Israel, which had been a continual waste. So prior to 1948, what happened? Prior to 1948, the land of Israel was a wasteland. And what happened when Israel became the rightful gained back the land in 1948? What happened? The land became prosperous, as it says in the scripture here. Its people were brought out, and mind you, the Jews were scattered across the different nations. They were scattered. YouTube punk, you better not go anywhere, man. We're just getting to the truth here. Its people were brought out from the peoples and now dwell securely. All of them you will advance, coming on like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land, you and all your hordes. So all these nations, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Afghanistan, all the stands, right? Kazakhstan. We have all the nations that begin to form around Israel, encompassing them. And then we see the war that happens right here. You say, would you talk with the chat? You mean with regards to comments or call-ins? Because I did call-ins the other day and nobody called in. Not call in, calling in. Dumb joke. I know, it's 12:50 a.m. Anyway, so if you guys want to do call-ins, maybe we can do something like that. The last, 10 minutes of the stream. I don't know how long I'm going here for, but otherwise it says, "Thus says the Lord God, on that day thoughts will come into your mind, and you will devise an evil scheme and say, I will go up against the land of unwalled villages." So they have to be in a place of safety here because they're clearly unwalled. There's no Gazan walls dividing Gaza from Israel, right? Having no bars or gates to seize, spoil, and carry off plunder, to turn your hand against the waste places that are now inhabited. So they were waste, and now they're inhabited. Okay? And it says, and the people who were gathered from the nations have acquired livestock and goods, who dwell at the center of the earth. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, this is Saudi Arabia. It says, "We'll say to you, to the nations that come against Israel, they'll say, have you come to seize spoil? Have you assembled your hosts to carry off plunder, to carry away silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, to seize great spoil? Therefore, son of man, prophesy and say to Gog, thus says the Lord God, on that day, my people Israel are dwelling securely. Will you not know it? Will you come from your place out of the uttermost parts of the north?" Which is, where's the uttermost parts of the north? That is Russia. So it talks about the center of the earth. They dwell at the center of the earth. This is Israel, who dwells at the center of the earth. And then we're talking about the uttermost parts of the north. The uttermost parts of the north being north of Israel, that is Russia. "And many peoples with you, all of them riding on great horses, a great host, mighty army. You will come up against my people Israel like a cloud covering the land. In the latter days, I will bring you against my land, that the nations may know me. Then through you, O Gog, I vindicate my holiness before your eyes." So basically at this point, he then goes on to swallow the army because God is going to protect Israel. Say, I would call. I'm in Israel. Oh no, I'm an Israeli, so I want to talk. Okay. Might do that opportunity in just a moment, but it says, so we are seeing prophecy being fulfilled like with these current events. We're leading to Ezekiel 38. We're not there yet, because in order for Ezekiel 38 to happen, we need to have a peace treaty. And we learn about that peace treaty in Daniel chapter 9, or rather a strengthening of this peace treaty, or a leading up to this peace treaty. So the peace treaty is then made with these nations, like what Trump is probably doing with these nations to create peace within the region. Maybe there's a huge war that happens between Israel and Iran right now. Of course, Iran will not prevail, but there's going to be great calamity. Iran will have to rebuild, but in the meantime, they'll call maybe truce for the time being. Trump or somebody else will come in, try to broker peace. They'll create an agreement, and then in Daniel chapter 9, that agreement is then strengthened for a period of time, and at the end of that, there's a 7-year period. The first period is where they strengthen the treaty. At the second half, that treaty is gone, no more. So you say, what's happening in Oman and Yemen? If you wouldn't mind explaining briefly. So I haven't been keeping up with what's going on in Yemen, other than the fact that the Yemeni Houthis had been were struck in by Israel recently. I forget, there was a news story that came out of TBN talking about that strike. Of course, the port that they're trying to, or that they were trying to block from ships coming through the Suez Canal, was to really prevent goods and services, or goods coming through that area. And China wanted to have some kind of power within that region. And ultimately, what they said, I think this was Pete Hegseth that said no more. We're not going to allow China to have any type of power in this area, and we're going to go ahead and take control of this region again. And Christians are being slaughtered. Yes, they are. You say Christians. I heard Christians are being slaughtered in Yemen. Christians are being slaughtered. They were slaughtered in Syria. They were slaughtered in I want to say Azerbaijan or Armenia recently. And then that's where they had the whole, let's say, Charles, are you sure Kush is Iraq and not Yemen? I don't know. I don't know. I was kind of speculating. I know Babylon is, if anything that is mentioned to Iraq, that would be Babylon. Ancient day Babylon is modern day Iraq. I know that much. But with Kush, let's do a little bit of research. We just know that here we go. Kush refers to the region associated with descendants of Kush, typically identified as the area of South Egypt. And yeah, so that's what it did talk about in the translation. It just said South, or something about Egypt, but otherwise modern day Sudan, South Sudan, possibly parts of Ethiopia, Eritrea. In ancient times, the region is known for the kingdom of Kush. Yeah, that's what it mentioned. So I just didn't make the connection. Say Pete Hegseth was sober enough to make a coherent statement and sent it in a group text. Say ships are blocked in the Bab al Mandab Strait. Yep, and the Suez Canal is open. Okay, so they blocked in. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I haven't looked too. I've heard something about the Mandab Strait, but yeah, because they backed off. They backed off the Mandab Strait. I mean the Suez Canal. They backed off that. And so let's go back to the scriptures here, and so that's what's being prophesied here. So we can go back to the video here, because let's continue to take a look at what is being said here
in real time, and Israel responded, and Israel did what it must do to neutralize people, the threat, Hamas, who threatened. They said, we will do this to you over and over and over again until Israel is wiped off the map.
Right.
And how are they doing that? They're doing that as a proxy of
That's
Iran.
right.
So what Israel is doing, and I think it's really important. I don't know if you caught what Prime Minister Netanyahu said. We haven't heard from President Trump yet. I haven't seen President Trump's reaction. But Prime Minister Netanyahu said to the people of Iran, he said, our fight is not with you. And
Yep, very true. This is actually, let's see what, this is supposedly what some of Trump's response to Israeli strikes.
Bring back in the chief political anchor, Brett Baer. He joins us by phone. He just happened to speak with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Brett, what did he tell you?
Hey, Trace. Yeah, I just spoke to President Trump. One thing, the president was aware of Israel's action before it happened. There were no surprises here. But
They say, no, they're Yemen, not Egypt. No, we're talking about Sudan, Kush being Sudan, South Sudan area, Ethiopia, Eritrea, that region.
he gave me a quote. He said, Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb. We're hoping to get back to the negotiating table. We'll see. There are several people in leadership in Iran that will not be coming back. Now, the president, I know, has spoken to Prime Minister Netanyahu several times in recent days. As I mentioned before, the Trump administration reached out to a key Middle Eastern ally beforehand to acknowledge this strike was going to happen, but that the U.S. was not involved in the strike, but the goal still to get Iran back to the negotiating table. There was this building frustration about what Iran was doing at that negotiating table with Steve Witkoff, the Middle East envoy. He was scheduled again for Sunday. Looks like, obviously, that may change the dynamic there. Whether that moves forward at all depends on what Iran does in response. The president told me he's, looking to see what the retaliation may be.
You say no, the blocked ships are in Yemen. Got it. Not the, got it.
Will help defend Israel.
I'm not sure if there was a comment I missed here.
Last time we talked, the Iron Dome has been replenished in Israel in recent weeks. So there's still this hope in the president's sense and the people around him that this changes the dynamic for Iran and that this does not launch into what will be a back and forth. But we just saw the post from the supreme leader saying that this is the beginning of a major retaliation and that Israel, in his words, has sealed its fate. U.S. officials are confirming to us that a number of top Iranian officials, leaders, are dead after these strikes. But as far as the full sense of what the targeting looked like, Natanz, the nuclear facility, was struck, but we don't believe it was by the biggest of the penetrating bombs, but we will have to see come first light. And the U.S. military, and we've been saying this, was not directly involved in these strikes, but there clearly was an advanced knowledge and communication and knowledge of what was happening, and now we'll see exactly what the retaliation looks like.
Great reporting, as always. Brett Baer, the chief political anchor, live for us on the phone. Brett, if you get more information, we'll bring you back in. Hey.
So that's some of what has been going down in that with regards to what Trump is saying. Let's take a look at some of what is happening here.
When they launch missiles at Israel and when they try to kill Israeli civilians, when I'm woken up by a ballistic missile launched toward Israel, which happens every day, which most people, I think, don't even realize. It happens every day. It's not even in the news. It happens every single day. People were woken up.
The thing is that Israel is essentially on lockdown, where they have now the siren raids going on, and they don't know when Iran will retaliate. Last time that Israel attacked Iran with going in very stealth, in a very stealth manner, they were able to successfully attack Iran, and Iran didn't know where they were coming from, essentially, because they were able to infiltrate their radar systems. And however, otherwise, we saw this event go down, and Iran didn't strike until, it was a couple days, couple weeks. I can't remember exactly when, but it was just, we're going to strike back. We're not going to allow Israel to get away with this.
Children. God's people, who he gave the book. The Bible's a Jewish book through
Amen.
and through. Written to Jews, the first evangelists, Jews, today, Jews, right? And there's an enemy. And that enemy is Iran, and that enemy hates God and hates God's covenant that he made with Israel. It's all spiritual. We see it manifesting in the physical, but it is a spiritual war. And so I take great comfort and solace in knowing that God can't change his mind. He's not wrong. He doesn't forget. He can't break a promise. He made a promise to Israel. We are going to be okay. It's frightening, Pastor. It's frightening when ballistic missiles are launched and you have to wake your children up at 3 o'clock in the morning and scurry downstairs to a bomb shelter and wait it out. That's frightening. And most people won't know that fear.
That's right.
But I believe, and I put my trust, my hope, and my faith in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Amen.
Yeshua. Jesus is on the throne. None of this happens. And we were just praying for God's hand of protection over Israel, even right now. This isn't going to be a few hours. They said this is going to last for the next few days.
That's right. That's right. And Daniel, this is something that everybody needs to think about right now and you mentioned it earlier, those locations that have been hit by the Israeli Air Force, those are locations that are very strategically pinpointed locations so that people understand. For example, centrifuges were taken out. Specific laboratories were taken out. All of these were in different locations with all one mission in play, and that is that they would assemble a nuclear weapon. So all of these various locations were taken out tonight, and people need to stop and realize if Israel just wanted to blow up the Iranian people, they could have dropped a nuclear bomb over Iran and destroyed them all. They could have just vaporized the entire country. Israel didn't do that. They pinpoint struck the key leadership and key locations for the assemblage and manufacturing of a nuclear weapon. And that should speak volumes to people. Downtown Tehran was not hit indiscriminately.
Dystopian, you say my comments keep getting cut off.
Areas were taken out.
Not what I'm trying to say.
Residential areas that were hit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if YouTube is cutting your comments. It's going to be YouTube. I don't have any moderators moderating the chat.
Military and government personnel. Daniel, I want to shift gears a little bit, and I want to bring this into the consideration. We are a biblically based news broadcast happening right now, and it's this. What are we looking at?
All right, guys, one sec. I'm just connecting a call right now. I'm just trying to get this. Why is it not going to my phone? My call again. Whoever called just now, please call again because I'm trying to get it set up to my Roadcaster. It should be going over 2 devices. How am I going to do this? So yeah, whoever was calling, go ahead and call back. I don't want to say the number, but just go ahead and call back because I need to, yeah, here we go. All right. What is going on here? Hello, hello. Welcome to the Equally Yoked Show. Who am I speaking with? Hello, can you hear me? Boy.
Yes.
There we are. There we are. Who am I speaking with? I got you on the line.
I will use my username if that's fine.
Yeah, it looks
Which
like
line?
it looks like it's going to be a delayed response. I got your audio here. Looks like you're coming through the audio. What's your name? Who am I speaking with? What's your YouTube handle?
I would prefer to use my username.
Yeah. Use your username. What is your username that you're using?
Blue slime.
Blue
1,
slime.
2.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast. So you said you wanted to call in. What do you think about all this that's going down with regards to Israel? with regards to what's happening with Iran. What's your perspective? Are you living in Israel right now? I know it's a lot of questions that I'm hitting you with, but otherwise, tell me what's
No,
going
I'm
on.
actually a green card holder.
Okay, okay, and you're currently in the U.S.
Yes.
Oh, great, great. Okay, so do you have family out there in Israel right now?
Yeah.
And so, what is it? Is there anything that your family is relating to you that things that you can share, of course, with what's happening down in Israel?
Well, they were waked up between 3 and 4 a.m.
Hmm. And with siren raids, is that correct?
Yeah, it's many sirens,
Yeah, yeah.
but
So, go ahead.
it's mostly like the news watching. Like,
Okay. Yeah. So, what is your perspective on all of this going down? What do you think this is headed with regards to Israel attacking Iran? How do you think? How do you think Iran might retaliate?
well, we see they send 100 drones. We already sent the drones.
Israel, that is, already sent the drones. Is that what you're saying?
No, Iran sent the drones.
So they already sent the drones to Israel, Iran.
Yeah,
And when was this? I hadn't seen anything on this.
I don't know. I'm watching Israeli media. That's
Got it, got it. And so, so these drones, are they expected to hit at any point? Any areas, key areas that they're going to be looking for?
no. These are a very small number of drones that will be shot down.
Yeah, yeah. It's there's a likelihood that Israel will shut them down. How will they utilize that by the Iron Dome system? Is that correct, or is there another system that they utilize for?
No, they would fly the fighter jets to
But
shoot it down.
And what kind of drones are we talking about here? Do you know the drone that they're using? Forget, is it the Q?
Well, they're using different kinds of drones, but they're similar to these that they sent to Russia to fight in Ukraine.
Got it, got it. Yeah, their drones are highly sophisticated, and they're capable. Especially, I think it's the. I'm not sure if it's the Q4 drones or I can't remember the name of it, but otherwise, there is.
It's like they called Shahad.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. With regards to all of that, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think this escalates to? Do you think Iran is going to continue forward with their nuclear program?
Yeah, they said so. The agreement that President Donald Trump tried to reach with them is not gonna succeed because they don't want to. They don't want it to succeed as the government wants. If the government, if the U.S. government wants a deal with Iran, they will have to compromise and let them enrich uranium, which is what we don't want to happen because we will get their nuclear bomb that way.
Exactly. What do you think the implications are if they do obtain a nuclear weapon?
Well, it's the same question. If Al Qaeda had the nuclear capabilities during 9/11, what would happen then?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is so much happened of course during the 9/11 where they completely the US began to spy on the citizens of America in order to, this what came became the uh was it the oh boy, it's slipping my mind, but otherwise yeah, nuclear weapons in the hands of Iran is not a good um ingredient because of the tensions that we see in the Middle East. Um, what are some other things that you're hearing with regards to all of this going down? Because I know this is just breaking news. There's some information that we get. Do you think the IDF is being truthful in what they're saying with regards to this, or do you think there's something else that we're not seeing?
Well, they are being truthful, but there might be things that they are not saying, of course, because it should be kept secret. But otherwise, everything they say is truthfully. unless they try to deceive the enemy. Otherwise, everything is truthfully.
Yeah, I honestly, with some of the stories, with some of the people that I know personally that talk about the Israeli media and any other media that tries to portray the stories that are going on, especially American media, we see that the Israeli media is always going to be the ones telling the truth with the matter of what's happening, and of course, left wing media and mainstream media in America like to twist what happens, especially what goes down in Gaza and the foreign aid that's going there and the Hamas stealing them. So it's
Yeah, that's why I'm not watching any of the US media.
exactly. When you watch US media, they often like to lie about the things that are going down. And it's just what people unfortunately fall into the trap. And it really is unfortunate. It really is. So what news sources are you typically looking for? Um, I know this is not necessarily the best news outlet, but I know some people look at Al Jazeera, even though it is in Arabic. Some people
Al
look for.
Jazeera is actually the worst one.
Hmm.
It's like asking from the founders of ISIS to give you news.
Hmm. Yeah, so there is a guy that I know that watches Al Jazeera to see kind of what they're saying, not because he likes to hear what they're not speaking the truth on any of this matters. There is
Well,
Al
there is
Jazeera.
difference between Al Jazeera in Arabic and Al Jazeera in English. Al Jazeera in English is more like whitewashing, so
Yep.
everybody would accept them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so otherwise there's the other news like I'm not sure what your sources are as far as Times of Israel or
I mainly
TBN.
use the IPBC, which is the Israeli Public Broadcast.
Mm, okay.
It's recognized by the European Public Broadcast Union.
Mm. Good to know. Good to know. Yeah, typically they're going to be.
I would recommend you to watch I-24, which is public for all of the world. It's available in English and even French if you want.
Mhm. Yeah, I actually I-24. I've seen a lot of their videos with regards to the news coverage during the October 7th stuff that happened, and there were some pretty solid news sources. Where you're so were you born in Israel?
Yeah.
Um, have you lived anywhere else other than the United States, other than Israel?
And no, only in Israel and here in the US.
Oh, got it. Okay. I thought I heard a little bit of French in your accent. Maybe I'm just tripping out. But
No, there's no French in here.
no French accent. I know there's a couple of Israelis that are from French. That's why I asked. But otherwise, let's see. Let's look at some of the comments here.
I mean, are you asking about my roots or are you asking if I speak French?
No, your accent almost sounds French. I know you're Israeli, but otherwise, because you have an Israeli accent, but it almost sounds like there's a French undertone. But it just could be because we're talking over the phone. Otherwise, not sure if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, but otherwise, any other thoughts with regards to what's going down? Any news sources that we didn't cover here on the show?
Well, there are the other Israeli channels, there are also the conservative ones, if you're interested in that more. But otherwise, there is they're all they talk about the same thing.
Yeah, I think it would be good. Actually, it's a good reminder to look at some of those news sources because lately, some of the news that I've been covering here, of course, and a lot of people don't like it, is Fox News, which it's really just covering the event that is breaking down in the moment. Not necessarily. I don't like to listen to the commentary with regards to that. It's just they're putting out information as what President Trump responded to or whatever the case is. But it is good reminder to look for I-24. That is a good solid news source, and even other news articles, just reading them out. So that is a good reminder because there's going to be a lot more truth in those rather than the other news sources. But anything else that you want to add to what we've been talking about?
Actually, I see the chat. Someone mentioned the arts. Is the arts is actually let's say a ultra left wing newsletter. Not a lot of Israelis follow that news since it's so radical. Like not a lot of Israelis like to follow, like, for example, Channel 14.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there are more radical ones, there are less radical ones, there are the ones who try to stay informative, like the Israeli Public Podcast. And again, that's what we want. We don't want to, if you want the best information, we need to stay out of news with agenda.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. What are your thoughts on Gadi Taub? You've heard of him? I know he's quite big out there with regards to reporting some of this information.
I'm not sure who. Is it from a news channel?
So Gadi Taub is he is I think he's an author. He's an historian. I think he was a professor at a university of in I forget where, but he writes in the Tablet magazine some of his information that he puts out there. But otherwise, he is a very, from what I know, from some of the Israelis that I know here in America. One like that I played earlier. His name is David Tal. I know him personally, and Gadi Taub is somebody that I have worked with. My last boss, who is actually Egyptian, but knows about Gadi Taub and has done multiple interviews with him. And he's apparently somebody who's big in Israel that talks a lot on these news cycles and is really offering good truth into the matter of these things. So I'd actually be interested. He does most of his interviews in the Israeli language, and so
Israeli language.
in Hebrew. So there's some English interviews that he does, but it's more Hebrew than it is English, if I'm not mistaken. And he does.
Talking about Gadi Taub.
Yes, Gadi Taub. Yes, Dr. Gadi Taub.
So I thought you said Gadi Taub. Sorry.
No, you're good. So, do you know about Gadi?
I mean, I looked him up right now, but no, I'm not following him. No.
Yeah. I actually want to see his take on some of this stuff. I'm not sure.
I would recommend looking for example, Dr. Mordechai Kidar, if you are interested in like someone who is like talking about the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. Mordechai
Kidar.
I want to say, if that name sounds familiar, I want to say Gadi did an interview with him. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But I'll take a look at Mordecai and see exactly what he has to offer, because that's some good resources there, very good resources. But otherwise, yeah. So as we keep up with these things, thanks so much for calling in, bro. You're actually the first caller that I have on the show.
Would you like to talk about anything else maybe about the conflict, about the war, anything else before the attack on Iran? For example, there was the whole thing with Greta Thunberg, or was all the convoy towards Gaza right now that was stopped in Egypt?
Yeah. So the stories surrounding Greta Thunberg, I hadn't looked into that much. So what can you tell me about that? Because that is something that I saw that came across my news cycle, and I just hadn't had the chance to look at it. But what do you think about that?
So basically, Greta Thunberg illegally entered Israel and was arrested.
And so where is she currently?
Basically, what ICE is doing with illegal people who enter the United States.
Right. Which people are, of course, going to accuse the U.S. from doing bad, but other nations such as Mexico, Canada, whatever, they remove people from coming in illegally. And so some of the information that is here with Greta Thunberg, it looks like this was she was aboard Madeleine, a UK flagged yacht operated by the
Yeah,
Freedom. Yep.
they started. Well, we called it the selfie cruise. Let's say let it called that.
Right, right. And so they were trying to deliver, looks like, humanitarian aid to Gaza. Oh, so that's why they were okay. Got it. So that's why they were.
Yeah, they like there was like less than 10 pounds of humanitarian aid. There was less than a truck. It wasn't any of use. It was mainly for the videos and getting publicity.
Of
There
course.
was no any reason to have this ship from Italy to Israel and enter illegally.
It's actually funny because you're right. Greta Thunberg has completely fallen off in the sense that she had this whole big break when she was talking about the climate crisis that we were going to all burn essentially in 2000. I forget what it
Yeah, the
was.
most funny thing that she flew a plane to Paris
Yeah.
instead after she didn't flew a plane for like ever.
Yeah. It's quite hilarious the things that that she's tried to stand for and the
Some
sort
of
of
the activists are still arrested in Israel because they are not agreeing to sign the deportation documents, but those who signed them were deported like Greta.
right.
For
Right.
example, the EU, like the EU Parliament member, I forgot her name, and she didn't agree to sign them, and so she was already deported from Israel last time, she will be so she will be deported again. That's her case, for example. But there was also like this Al Jazeera, and this person from Al Jazeera was in was in Hassan Nasrallah, uh, when Hassan Nasrallah died, he was in his funeral, and he is like publicly support terrorists and connected to them. So he's also probably gonna be deported.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the death of Hassan Nasrallah, that was wild, and the retaliation by or the supposed retaliation by Iran wasn't even that great, because even the rockets that they had sent over to Israel, um, completely were off the mark with where they hit. And honestly, I think that's just by God's grace, avoiding major cities where they actually struck. But otherwise, this war is going to escalate to a point to where it could lead to. I'm curious. What do you think about what Ezekiel 38 says? Do you know anything about Scripture? Is this something that you study?
You're talking about like religious scripture?
Yes, your scriptures.
I'm Jewish, so we use mainly the Old Testament.
Yes, Ezekiel 38 is Old Testament. Or Ezekiel, the book of Ezekiel is Old Testament. Yes. So
Yeah.
I'm referring to the war that is talks about in Ezekiel 38 that mentions this war that happens between the leader Gog from the land of Magog that goes in and takes a company of people.
We are in the day of modern age, and this is these are old books from the books of books, and so people are saying like, well, it has the supernatural in it, so it's probably not fake. Now I'm not agreeing with that because some of the things in Bible were proven to be true, but I'm gonna say that if you don't want to believe that supernatural part, I'm gonna agree with you. It, no, I'm not totally because nobody can prove that there is no God and there is God, but I'm gonna agree with you in somewhat.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, when we're looking at everything with regards to the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, the things that we see are shaping up the wars that we talk about in Tanakh, in the prophets. So otherwise,
In what? Sorry, what did you say?
in Tanakh,
Oh, okay.
what are you surprised about that?
No, you just said weirdly.
Yeah, I'm American, man. I'm not Israeli. I don't have the proper pronunciation.
You
Uh,
can say the Hebrew Bible, that's fine.
Hebrew Bible, sure. I guess more proper term that a lot of this chat likes to correct me on is using the proper terms, but Hebrew Bible works fine. Yes, most people like to correct that sort of language because just the nuance of it. Otherwise, the Hebrew Bible, with regards to these prophecies that are talked about, me personally, my view is held where we're looking at the region, the Middle Eastern region, which has always been a hotbed for wars and the things that we've seen, especially in these modern days, where things are shaping up
There
to
is
be.
actually there is a very good explanation for all these conflicts in the Middle East, which is basically very. So the Middle East is like the United States in the 1900s, basically, if you wanna put it that way. Very close. Like for example, you still have slavery in Yemen,
Mhm.
like black people slavery in Yemen. So there is the Middle East is somewhat kind of like the 18th century uh, United States. You can say that.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah, Arabs, the Arabs in the region and the in Yemen,
And you can say that Israel is kind of like Canada in for all the states.
they're kind of like what? I'm sorry.
Canada, you can say that.
Kind of like the United States.
Like the British Canada, like
Oh, got it. Got it. Yeah,
because we like abolished slavery already and there are more rights and all of that.
got it.
That's basically my kind of me trying to compare it for the American.
Yeah, yeah, I could see where you're going there. I mean, ultimately, I hold to the scriptures, man. I hold to the scriptures and the fact that they prophesy of a time that we see wars that will happen, and they're just leading up to those wars eventually coming true. Um, yeah, so yeah, that's just my point of view on that. I know you have your point of view otherwise, but I see that ultimately the God of the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is has been 100 for 100 in his prophetic statements that he says, and that's just the type of view that I hold, being uh, American uh, Bible loving Christian, I guess. Somebody comments. Let me see if there's anything that talks about anything that we can probably reference here, but otherwise. Um, some say have extreme right wing sources and evangelicals, but otherwise, hey man, Blue, it was good having you on the stream. I hope you can call in another time and we can talk a little bit more about this as this develops. I would love to have you back on. But otherwise, is there any
I'm
last
open
words
to
that you want to
talk
share?
now, man.
Go ahead.
We can talk about the conflict in the Middle East if you want. You prefer that?
Yeah, yeah. So next time we do the call-ins, if you're in on the chat, we'll go ahead and put the number on the chat, and if you call in, we'll go ahead and talk more about everything that's happening in this Middle East. Of course, anything that is with regards to the Middle East, I'm going to be keeping an eye on those things, and we'll be using some other sources as opposed to maybe Fox News. Of course, I like to just use that just for
Okay,
general information.
next time look up app supremacies, and you would need to check that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, of course. We'll stay in touch, man. Thanks so much for joining the podcast. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Guys, so much is going down with everything that is happening in the region. And ultimately, we're seeing a buildup of everything that is happening. So I just wanted to go back to YouTube punk. It happened a long time ago and it's not happening today. I'm just saying that there's NM. I'm not sure that abbreviation, if it says that anyone could have done touchy subject. Let's see. Amazing how Charles needs to, okay. Get all of his news from extreme. How are these extreme right sources though? Extreme right-wing sources and evangelicals.
Connecting.
We got another caller here. We'll take the last caller. All right, let me see if I can bring you in on the roadcaster here.
Hi.
Hello, welcome to the stream. This is the Equally Yoked show.
Hi, I can wait. I know you were in the middle of speaking and saying something, so I can wait if you needed a minute.
No, you're good.
I'm Shaylee. Hi.
Let's go ahead and talk. So, is there anything that you wanted to talk about on this podcast?
Yes. So I just found you night before last night, and I'm really thankful. I love your podcast so far, and all of your everything that you cover and how you cover it. So thank you for that. I wanted to an interesting point got brought up to me today by my sister, and that's the fact that has anybody thought about the convenience or the not convenience, the whatever word I'm trying to think of.
Of course.
That we conveniently have the troops in California, okay, because of the protests, and then also Trump is going to be having a military parade for his birthday in Washington, D.C., which, if he may have considered that something like this could happen, would actually be extremely smart of him, because that's covering two areas which would be most likely to be attacked if we were to get attacked.
Yeah, very great observation there. And thank you for your comments, by the way. That's
doing
really
it within a
encouraging.
way that's not going to cause crazy chaos because of, anyways.
Yeah, no, just to comment on that, there is, so conveniently having troops in California and, of course, for his military parade for his birthday in Washington, D.C. You're talking about in case of attacks with regards to the protests?
No, like World War, because of what just happened with the unfortunate bombing. Yeah,
I'm sure there was. Look, they have the intel that they're working through these deals, especially with Iran not backing down. The geopolitics in that region is very complicated, in the sense that we want to try to have a long-lasting peace, and Trump is the only one that has attempted to broker that peace effectively within these nations. And Iran is very complicated in their sort of negotiations, because they have a no negotiation policy with wanting to get rid of America and the Jewish nation. And so, so there's no way that we would see any type of deterring of their main plan, which is to get rid of, their main plan to build nuclear weapons in order to hold that as a leverage against any sort of attacks that America might want to do or Israel might want to do. They'll just say, "Hey, we'll just use a nuclear bomb."
That would be horrible if that happens. But yes, that would be horrible.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And we don't want to go to war. Most certainly, we don't want to go to war with Iran. I don't think we can sustain it in the sense that we're going to be both destroyed. I think America will still come up on top because of the allies that we have. And, if NATO still follows the treaty of Article 5, where if you attack one NATO nation, the others follow through. So it is possible that America still would stay on top, but there would be a devastation on both sides, and it wouldn't be good. So it's a very
it would be horrible.
Yeah, it's a very thin line, and it is smart of Trump, and I'm sure there is anticipation for that. There was the understanding that Trump was there was an assassination attempt by the Iranian regime prior to, I think it was prior to his election into office. I don't remember exactly when that was, timeline wise, but it was
Okay.
recent. I don't know if you've heard of that, but there was some serious
No, I
threats.
don't follow politics. I mean, other than now, because I mean, there's some serious stuff going on now. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
the crazy thing. Yeah, it really, so much is happening. Even though Trump is trying to do right by the American people, there is still so much that needs to get fixed. And the world stage that is, it's almost being set on fire by just the radical left and everything that we're seeing. And hopefully things get deterred for a little
Chaos
while
feeds
longer.
chaos, and then fear fuels that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What we're seeing with these riots is complete nonsense. And I mean, I get it, Trump knew what he was getting into when he was going to start deporting people, and he knew that there was going to be complete chaos that would ensue with regards to this, especially with the response from Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. Completely erroneous in what they were
Gavin
saying.
Newsom is the governor of California, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Thank
Karen
you.
Bass is the mayor of LA. And she is,
Okay.
yeah. So she was basically saying that she was saying we should continue these protests, that these are mostly peaceful. And same thing with Gavin Newsom. He said he wants to pursue the suing of Trump and the administration because of them calling in the National Guard. But in reality, when things are happening that are this dangerous, which I'm in the LA area,
Yeah.
and thankfully I haven't seen anything.
So is my sister.
Yeah. Oh, really? Wow. Has she witnessed
Yeah.
anything personally firsthand?
Not that she's told me. She just, I mean, so we're both extremely esoteric and whatnot as well. Visions and whatever we have sometimes, but no, like she brought this up to me earlier, and I mean, she called me crying because she's worried about what's happening, which I think is valid. I think that everybody, it's definitely something to be concerned with. I just think, with that being said, we all need to remember, utmost and most importantly, we need to remember that for me, what I believe is there are only two choices, and those two choices are love or fear. And if we choose fear, that doesn't do any good. It never has, and it never will. It destroys people. It destroys nations. It destroys communities. It destroys anything good. But love will always win, and love will always love won't destroy you the way that fear will. So I just think that's something that I would hope that people remembered at this time, and if it I mean, even if it doesn't, just in general with our daily lives, to remember that we are all here, and we all are human beings with souls that are trying to just live our lives, and we need to be there for one another. We need to help each other. We need to build communities at this time, and not fight with each other, because that's what fear wants, and fuck fear.
Yeah, with regards to these protests, and the sort of making them more violent than they ought to be, because there are some that are doing peaceful protests and they're doing, really well in what they're doing, but otherwise the ones that are insinuating violence is terrible. And I love what you said with regards to
Yes.
love and fear. If I just bring back the scripture for a moment, we talk about that love is patient, love is kind, love, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. And so the scripture that it talks about here, which is within 1 Corinthians 13, Paul describes the characteristics of a godly, selfless love. But the thing is love is also, loving is an interesting thing when we talk about God's type of love. God's love also chastens. God's love is discipline. God's love is in the most holy way that we can think with regards to the scripture. I'm not sure what your position is on scripture, but ultimately when we look at the scenarios going on, there's so much media telling you and trying to show you one thing, and then another media trying to tell you another thing. And we just want to know the truth.
Yes.
Being a citizen of America, being in the sort of the neck deep in all of this, we want to know the truth, and we don't want no more lies, because we've been lied to the last 4 years. At least that's what I felt. That's what I witnessed during the last 4 years of the Biden
That's why I
administration.
appreciate podcasts like yours, because that's what I watch. I watch you and other sources. I won't watch the news, so that's why I very much appreciate you and what you do for us.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks
Genuinely.
for
Mhm.
calling in the podcast. And what you said really touched my heart with regards to love and fear. That really put things into, reminded me of the things that we're going through, that we shouldn't have fear, of course. Ultimately, when it comes to that, we do need to love our neighbors, most certainly in the most scriptural way. And ultimately, what Biden or what Trump is doing, rather, is he's following the laws that the country has already had in place. So there's no breaking of
Yes.
laws. There's no. It's only enforcing the laws that we've had since the founding. And ultimately, there are ways that we treat the foreigner in our own land, and there's rules and laws that need to be followed. And if they're not following those rules and laws, for sure they need to be removed, and of course in a respectful manner. I think there needs to be respectful manners
I agree.
with regards to that. So hey, thanks so much for calling in on the podcast.
It's just
I really
sad
appreciate that.
situation all around. However, if I may just say one more thing, and
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
so welcome. Thank you. Okay, so I did see. Speaking of protests, and I'm all for peaceful protests. I think that's what needs to happen. That's our rights. We have the right to do peacefully protest. However, I did also see two clips today that I really, really liked, speaking of both. And the first one was a woman speaking of, I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact incident, but there was an incident, I think it was in Russia, and there were protesters during this incident, and not the cops, but what they have in Russia was there with guns, and the protesters started talking to the men with the guns, and they the whole time they were reminding these men that had the guns, the military or whatnot. They were reminding them, hey, don't forget, we are your brothers, we are your children, we are your neighbors, we are your teachers, we are being peaceful, we are just wanting our voices to be heard. And they just, the whole time they were protesting, they were reminding the military members that they were human. And with the incident, it was like as some official got elected or something, I think that day. And when that happened, when the official got elected, he told the military members to fire into the crowd and kill the protesters. And all of the military members that day put down their guns and refused to shoot the protesters.
That is wild.
Because the protesters had been reminding them that they were human still, even though they were protesting.
Yeah.
And that's huge. Yes, there is a way to get your point across without violence.
There really is. And it reminds me of a lot of the protests with regards to the, there was I think it was in Europe, I forget where it was, where there was the truckers that came in on their farming tractors and stuff like that. There's ways to do demonstrations that are way more effective than the way that burning American flags are and setting cars on fire, Waymo cars, just destroying property. It doesn't make sense to wave another country's flag that you don't want to go back to in the country that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't make any sense. It's so contradictory to what they're trying to stand for.
And I mean, so I will say, like, I understand it too. I mean, I understand the anger, I understand the
yes,
the probably sadness, the probably fear, the probably all of the emotions that those people must be feeling, and I can't imagine how horrible that would be. However, go to therapy if you have anger issues. Don't use this as an outlet to deal with your anger issues. Violence solves nothing. Passion, words, still treating each other like we are human beings, because we are. Yeah. It speaks volumes. Think of Martin Luther King Jr. and everything that he went through to teach us, to try to teach us not to use violence. Okay. On the other end of that, the police chief in Florida earlier today put out a clip stating that they were all for protesters, and they would protect protesters as long as they were protesting in a peaceful manner, because that is the oath that they took, was to protect their citizens against, harm, and it is their right to, protest in a peaceful manner. But then he also went on to say that if violence became involved, that he would, that the cops would, he went on to say it in several very powerful and very, I think in a way that hopefully made people listen, but he was pretty much saying, if you go to violence here in Florida, in this county, our police officers will arrest you. And then he went on to saying, if you spit on one of my police officers, if you, whatever, one of my police officers, then you'll end up in the hospital, and then you'll end up in jail. And he went on to saying, even further, something about if they did, and then if they took another action, they would shoot them and kill them. He should have told them.
Yeah.
So, and then he reminded us that these are our police officers and our ICE agents. Absolutely, we may not all agree with what they're doing. However, at the end of the day, most of these people are still just people who are doing their jobs, who are doing what they're supposed to do, who are going to work, who are making a paycheck so that they can go home and feed their families, who are making sacrifices every day and putting their lives on the line in order to do that. And I think we need to try to remember this.
Yeah, that is such a strong point to make, because they are human beings. That is really touching to remind ourselves, because I think a lot of people like to dehumanize these ICE agents and these police officers in the sense that they're not humans, but they are, and they have families, and they have kids,
They
have wives.
Most of them are.
Yeah, they have husbands and all that stuff, and it's like, of course, they're human. And how could we treat other humans like this? It's irreparable. And so you bring up a very strong point there, and a good reminder for all of us to look at what's going on. And I see both sides. I see the frustration, like you mentioned, and I understand that people feel like they're being ripped apart from their lives that they had here, but ultimately they should have come in the right way and the legal way. Otherwise, they're going to be facing some serious consequences with not coming back in, because of the actions that they did if they were a part of the protests. And so, so thanks so much again for calling. I appreciate your kind words. It was so amazing to hear from you, and your encouragement on the podcast. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, my pleasure, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you
as well. Bye-bye. Guys, great reminders for us to understand that these people have families and lives that they have to go back home to. They have a job to do, and ultimately we must be reminded of the fact that we can't just treat them like how we want to treat them, just like trash on the side of the road. It's not right. It's not right. So guys, I want to thank you so much for joining this podcast. All of you have been very awesome in joining and listening and hearing the thoughts. And of course, we want to keep an eye on all of this Middle East politics and the things that are happening with potentially a huge war that is going to hopefully not break out, but otherwise we'll keep up to date with all of that, because I know the Trump administration is going to be very involved now, if not more than what they were doing prior. And let's keep an eye on that stuff, and hopefully the protests die down and they don't become violent. And we just move on with doing things in a very peaceful manner. And of course, not accepting the violence and doing what needs to be done. So guys, thank you so much for joining the podcast. You guys are great for being here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. If you guys like what you heard, if you guys like what you saw, please subscribe and like and share the content, because this is very important stuff that we need to cover on a day-to-day basis. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.